One more problem for Hillary Clinton. Because going back and watching the tapes from 2007 and watching the news coverage from 2007, right? The narrative was that she's a flip-flopper, right? That she flip-flop, 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 and they had all these, and that was back then. And now she's flip-flopped again. And, Anderson Cooper said it to her in his debate when he said, will you say anything to get elected? That was the tenor of almost all the questions that they were asking her in 2007 and all the news reports that I've seen going back that I can find. And so all of a sudden, all that somehow everybody has amnesia over these last 7 years or 8 years. And now somehow all that stuff that they used to say about Hillary Clinton, they're saying about Bernie Sanders, that he's unelectable and he can't get, but she's the one. And by the way, I can see the campaign commercials already. She is going to get killed if she's the nominee with all her back. I'm not saying FBI baggage. I'm not saying email baggage. I'm saying baggage on the positions she's taken publicly. She comes after Bernie Sanders for criticizing Barack Obama, and he says, one of us ran against them. She's got so many Achilles heels. She is a horrible candidate, and people don't realize that, and they're going to realize it till it's too late, and then we have President Cruz.
I think you're 100% wrong. I think she's a fantastic candidate. I think she'd be great in a general election. I think there's somebody who's better, and I don't know how she's going to get around the fact that guy better. So we're never. I think there's some chance.
Plus, he's a billionaire.
He's a billionaire.
You don't think that she's the antithesis of what people want right now, which is authenticity and an anti-establishment, and she is the opposite of that. So when you say that she's a good candidate, maybe in a different era, but not this era.
I got it, but she's running. I mean, most likely she will be going up against somebody about whom that stuff is not relevant anymore.
Unless it's Trump.
Unless it's Trump, but Trump has so many other problems. But I don't know. By then, Trump may have. I don't know either. But Trump has way more problems than she does. He's way more unlikable than she is right now. But she's got a problem now with that. There's no question. Right now, she's got a huge problem with that. But you know what strikes me is that to Trump to some extent, and there are obviously some similarities between Trump and Bernie in terms of the reasons they are appealing to people, right? I mean, they both go at it, and they're totally different people, and they would govern totally different. One is responsible, and one is a crazy person. But it reminds me of what's happened to local news. Like Hillary Clinton is local news. There was a way to do this. There's a way to anchor the news. There's a way to talk, and people stopped watching it because it doesn't work. And where have people gone? Where are those people now? What are they watching? They're here, or they're watching other YouTube stars. They're watching people without prompters speaking authentically. In a sense, this campaign, Hillary Clinton is Ernie Anastas, and Bernie Sanders is Cenk. That this is a sea change coming from how we get our information. You talked about the phone, and Hillary is, and we are seeing the change, and maybe she'll pull it out and win anyway. But as you've said, it seems like that era is gone. The next politicians that we get are not going to talk this way, the way that she still does.
Yeah, I think that for people under 35, the younger you get, the more true it is. They did not grow up watching robots, so the robots freak them out. So when they see a local news anchor who's like, the number of ambulances have doubled, but so the number of accidents. They're like, that guy is super fucking weird, right?
Yeah,
that is a weirdo, right? And so because they didn't grow up on it. And so the same with the politicians.
Why aren't some of these people 30 years old hired on local newscasts? Why are they doing their hair this way? Why are they hiring the same beautiful women and the same beautiful blown dry guys? Like, stop. Stop.
No, they never will.
Well, they will.
They're going to go down with that ship.
We wanted to find out from the people watching our coverage of it what they thought.
Oh, I'm curious about that.
I was too, which is why I did not say, who do you think won the debate? Because I have a pretty good idea who you're going to think. What I want is to ask a question that will get people to separate who they support from who won that debate. Because I support Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders has not won every debate and will not win every debate. I was unsuccessful in reframing the question.
Yeah, I was going to say, good luck,
Whose campaign will benefit more from last night's debate? Bernie Sanders, 95%, Hillary Clinton, 5%, which I think he did win this debate.
Good try. I don't
That's a big
based
gap
on the
right
clips
there.
I saw, like under the Stableford scoring system, under like the old, some golf tournament uses that, under the old scoring system.
The Duchess of Queensberry
Like, she
rules.
did win. She's good. He is, you're supposed to project confidence and be happy and likable, and he's irritated and asking for the check, right? But we're in a different time, and they want that guy to ask for the check. So she's going to continue to win the debates, and us working our insides up into a bind about how the media is framing it wrong, and they look at the headlines. It doesn't matter. They like what he says. They like what he says, and it doesn't matter how he says it. They like what he says, and that will win every single debate.
So, a couple of things about that real quick. Number one, we are at Bernie Sanders is at a slight disadvantage there because we're trying desperately here to call it as unbiased as we can. We don't always succeed. Maybe we don't often succeed. Right?
I succeed more than Hillary Clinton does.
But we let not only are we honest about, not only do we acknowledge our bias, but we let the people overrule us. So, for example, last Republican debate, we thought Rubio got killed. It turns out he got killed, right? But the debate before that, we thought Rubio lost. But then Luntz showed a focus group of Republicans who showed 2/3 thought Rubio won. So we immediately said, John was more correct about that than the rest of us. We immediately said,
I don't remember that part.
I don't remember that.
You know what? Neither does Hillary Clinton.
Okay. So we immediately said, I guess we were wrong. The Republican voters liked Rubio in that debate. Okay, so scored for Rubio. We let the people overrule us because those are the facts on the ground, right? If there's any reliable polling, et cetera.
And then he did incredibly well in Iowa. After that.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And it turns out that focus group was right? And our initial, I'll say my initial assessment of that particular debate and how Rubio did was wrong, right? So I don't have any problem acknowledging that because that's what you're supposed to do. You're trying to get to the truth here. But the mainstream media doesn't see it that way. They don't even know that they're biased. So they just go in and they're like, the way that you're supposed to act as a politician is exactly how Hillary Clinton acts. Scored for her again. Scored for her again. Scored for her again on each of those cases. So now Bernie Sanders is under an extra weight because the mainstream media will always score for Hillary Clinton. We scored for Bernie Sanders most of the time because of specific reasons that we explain. Some of the times, though, we don't. We scored for Hillary Clinton. We say, hey, she did better in foreign policy and in a lot of the debates. We're not saying we agree with her. We're saying we thought she did a better job in that debate or in that portion of the debate. Well, okay, now it's an uneven playing field for Bernie Sanders. That's not fair because you got his supporters being honest. The other guys don't even know that they're biased. And then on top of that, he's doing so well in the polling because of what Ben said. The pundits are scoring like it's a boxing match. I'm going to give that round 10-9 to Hillary Clinton. The guys at home aren't scoring like that. They don't give a shit about that. What do they care about? Who do I like? Oh, I like that guy's policies, right? Which then goes to John's point that he made during the live coverage, which is, wait a minute, they already know Hillary Clinton's policies. But a lot of them don't know Bernie Sanders at all. They watch the debate and they go, oh my God, I didn't know that. Wow, I like that. I like that. So almost every debate, a lot of people find out Bernie Sanders' position for the first time. He wins a lot of votes in each one of those debates. The pundits never get that right. Now
that's why they didn't want debates.
Right. So that's why, that's exactly right. That's why Bernie Sanders is picking up so much momentum in the polling and in the actual voting. But he's doing that despite the fact that he's got to overcome all those burdens all those headlines. Now, imagine if the mainstream media's headlines were even. Some say Sanders won, some say Hillary Clinton won. Imagine how much more momentum he would have.
I disagree. I think you got it wrong there. I think that this narrative is just every bit of this narrative helps him. Partly because he's right on what Democratic voters want to hear, right? But the fact that every time that he's dissed, every time that when Bernie gets his biggest applause line, when he goes and his last thing is, and the media, right? Yeah. So, I mean, all this just first of all, it keeps setting the bar low. She's always the best. She's always going to win. So the next debate will come around. Voters will be looking. They're like, well, Hillary Clinton, she wins every debate. I like what this guy has to say. What are they telling me? They keep setting the bar low for Bernie, and the media appears to be not buying what he's saying. All of that, I think, plays into what he wants.
This notion that the mainstream media doesn't know what they're doing, they know exactly what they're fucking doing.
He did it again.
And by the way, on that poll, our poll 95-5, that goes to prove Ben's point. We asked you guys, who do you think actually won the debate, not who do you like better? And you're like, yeah, I like Bernie Sanders.
And everyone will answer the debate that way. We're not, I mean, except maybe the USC and UCLA debate clubs.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
that's not who we ask. So
That's funny.
the focus group, I'm not surprised, said a different thing because he didn't. Look, and what Rubio proved, like Bernie could lose a debate, right? You could lose a debate. You could make a serious gaffe. You could literally, he could start coughing too much. I'm sure some people are talking about that. That totally scares me for him, right?
Yeah.
Like, please, like, I don't want to, don't get sick. Don't play into that narrative, right?
Pull out a handkerchief.
Right, right, it's got blood all over it, like so. But you could lose it by Rubioing it, right?
Yeah.
So, but he's not going to lose a debate by repeating the thing that people want to hear. He's never going to lose one if he keeps repeating the things that people want to hear, and Democratic voters very clearly want to hear it. I would like some credit, and I don't want credit. I want other people to do what I am doing. Like, I thought Hillary had this wrapped up, right? But I see those focus groups. I see the polls. She doesn't. So if I can make this assessment, if I can recognize, no, she doesn't. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a freaking coin flip. You got it at 55. I'll put it at 50. We're pretty close, right?
If
Then
Ben's got it at 50, boy, it has moved.
So what is clear is, and I heard it on the radio today, like, you could say what you want, assess it how you want, whether she's in trouble. The degree of trouble is debatable, but she is in trouble. So I don't understand why Scott Lehigh can't make that same assessment and his ilk. And I think my guess is, first of all, they don't all. There's no groupthink. Well, there's groupthink, but some will. I already heard it on the radio today. To me, I'm starting to hear
It's going to break.
Yeah.
When he wins Nevada, finally the fever is going to break in Washington.
If you win Nevada.